Welcome to the discussion on what's new in data management. I'm Kumar Thangamuthu, Senior Product Manager at SAS, and we have Nancy Roche, Senior Manager at SAS, and together we're going to talk about what's new in data management. There are 4 areas we're going to cover: what's new in data governance and metadata management, data flow and integration, data quality and QKB, quality knowledge base, and data access and connectivity. Data governance and metadata management. It is an excruciating, painful process to find the right data set across a team. Now imagine you're trying to do that across an entire organization. SAS information governance's main goal is to address that challenge using an intuitive search and discovery tool with the power of cataloging and semantically classifying data, which we'll see in a moment in a demo. Users can also find column-level graphs and analysis that they can use to take further actions, such as data transformations to prepare, cleanse, and standardize data. Also build reports and models or exploring the lineage. Let's check out the demo to learn more. Here we can see that the SAS information governance, one of the initial features is for a user to identify their previously accessed datasets using recent or favorites collections. Or they can also use an intuitive search box where they can type syntax search if you know the exact type of search terms, or the previous search if they have already used it. Let's say in this case, I'm looking for COVID data with latitude and longitude using a free-form text search. Here you can see the search results, and I can see that there's a data set with COVID data and latitude and longitude. I can also see other table-level metadata, such as status of the data, the library, date modified, size of the data set, number of rows, and number of columns gives an additional information what data set you're looking for. Here I can see that for the data set, I can add additional business description, and also the history trend for the row count and the completeness, along the table overview information such as columns, number of rows, and columns. And here I can see additional information about each columns, descriptive measures such as profile metrics and outliers, where they can see any columns that has additional information about outlier values. And a graphical representation of each column frequency distribution, as well as additional metrics. Now, metadata measures provide users with data types and primary key candidate, and data quality measures provide uniqueness, information privacy, and what type of semantics the column has classified to. In this case, we are also looking at latitude, longitude, geographical information. Now, when I click on the column, I can see additional graphical representation for each columns. In this case, I'm looking at confirmed data. I can see the frequency distribution with skewness and kurtosis statistical information, where a business user or data steward can see how skewed the data is from a normal distribution, so they can do further actions on this data, whether to transform the data, or they can also create models based on the skewness. Now I can look at further information on the data, looking at the sample information. Now, if I'm happy with the data, I can go approve the data set as a data steward so other users can start using it for their reporting or modeling purposes. Now, I can also take further actions on this data set where I can look at whether I wanted to transform the data to prepare data, or I can create a report using explore and visualize, build models, or explore lineage as well. Now, if I'm looking at multiple data sets, it's easy to ferret the data set, so I can go back to the initial page, home page, and I can see that the data that I favorited, I can see it easy to find for the collection. Now, as an admin, I can also create an agent to catalog these datasets from multiple CAS and SAS libraries across various data sources. Here I can see that path-based CAS libraries, or I can also select different data sources. In this case, I have a library with dataset. I can enter the region that belongs to Southeast region, or description if I wanted to add additional information. And I can also run this now to catalog the dataset, or as an admin, I can go and schedule this job so I can have this ready to be cataloged and available for other users to use. Now, if I can't find the dataset, I can import using a path or local files. And now if I want additional information, a user can click on the SAS information user guide for more information regarding the search and all the capabilities that we just talked about. Now, the data flow and integration. If you're an existing SAS user, you'll probably come across SAS Data Integration Studio for data flows and querying, or SAS Enterprise Guide for process flows. Now, one of the goals for SAS Studio Flow on SAS Viya is to provide a unified flow designer. Users can build queries, flows, and collaborate by creating reusable tasks and steps. But check out the demo to learn more. Here I can see a demo of avocado prices. We are looking at a raw data that has been imported using an import step as part of the SAS Studio flow. Now you can see the raw data file contains the prices, data, and geography information as well. And we have multiple flows that we have created. And the first one is to import dataset. And I can also see the flow contains parse dates. Now, before we look at the flow, here's an overview of what is the data we are trying to import, or what the data will look like after we have imported, along with the type, the format of the data. The parse data has SAS code where data preparation, along with data quality functions that's provided as part of the SAS functionalities that can be used to parse the input data that we are using, and the final output, avocado prices. Now let's run this flow. Here I can see the final output after the raw data has been imported, along with the date, the values, the prices of the avocado, the type, and the geography, the state that or city that the avocado prices belongs to as part of this flow. Now, let's look at the second flow, where which contains a little more additional information about the recipes that someone could import and to visualize along with the prices. Here we are using a recipe API from Spinacular using the proc HTTP SAS code, and it's been imported as two JSON files, one JSON file for the avocado recipes, the second JSON file for the ingredients. Now we can combine those two using a join step, and then we get this avocado recipes dataset. Now we can also combine this flow along with the prices flow for the 2019 avocado prices and join those two, and we get this final avocado prices and recipe dataset that we can use to further visualize the prices for across geography in different states and city. Now, once we run this, we have this final table, the avocado recipe and prices. Let's preview the dataset. And here we can see the prices dataset that we originally saw, along with the recipe dataset with the title, which is basically the recipe, the number of likes, the amount of avocado for the recipe, and the average price that someone could look at for each geography as well. Here we can see the final dataset can be used along with the SGplot to visualize the combined data set that we just created. Here we can see for each recipe across different months, what is the variation for the prices, avocado prices, along the different months in the year, in 2019, for recipe that had likes more than 2. So this kind of easily helps the user to create a data flow along with integration and ingestion data, so they can visualize and create this unified flow along with the SAS data flow and the process. So far, we have looked at 2 new capabilities and tools in data management on SAS Wire. Now, Nancy is going to talk about the areas that are the core components of these tools and beyond.
SAS data quality forms the foundation of many of the capabilities that Kumar just demonstrated. SAS data quality can come to where your data lives. It can run in batch, it can run in stream, it can run in real time. Pretty much any of the runtime environments that SAS supports also supports SAS data quality. A key element of SAS data quality is our quality knowledge base, and it has had a major uplift in CI32. In addition to new locales and new languages, there are enhancements for entity identification through identification analysis and personal data detection features. Our CI32 is also fully cloud enabled. Let's have a demo.
First, I'm going to demonstrate using data quality in SAS Studio. I'm going to show this in the context of the new Flow Builder. First, we want to note that the SAS data quality product has snippets of code over here for all of the data quality functions. So, for example, you can apply data quality to any of the library tables that you have. Those are shown within the snippets. If I open an existing flow that I've created here, I can demonstrate the data quality sample. Here's an example flow that's picking up data from customers and doing a gender analysis and a case. If you look at the data in customers, you can see that there's various fields in here that I may want to identify for gender. If I run this flow, I can see that the tables are generated for both casing and for gender. So if I pick this table as its output and preview the results, I can see that the table has generated a gender field for the name, and it's done a gender analysis. Similarly for case, if I look at its output and preview its data, I can see that the region field was identified as originally all set to uppercase, and now it's case specific. I can do additional snippets. For example, I could choose to guess the locale of the data, or parse out address information, or even run profiling and identification analysis. Another example is to see data quality in the context of a stream. Here you can see that we're applying data quality functions to extract the identification of the objects in the stream. We're able to identify personal fields such as social security number, state, province. We're also able to perform gender analysis on the names. All of the data quality functions are available.
Data connectivity is also a key element and one of our key differentiators at SAS. We support many types of data connectors to all kinds of data, data sources, data types, and data formats. Here are just a few of the types of data connectors that we support. One of the key elements that we've added is enhanced cloud platform connectivity. We have, as you can see, many different types of connectors that support connecting to attaching, adding, enhancing your data in the cloud directly or moving it to and from on-premise to make your cloud connectivity seamless. Another capability that is a significant enhancement is our in-memory database processing. Here we're bringing the power of SAS to your data, and there are a number of enhancements to support in runtime environments such as Spark and enhancements for the new Cloudera platforms. We also support connectivity to cloud sources like Orc or Parquet, and we do that in database. Let's have a demo of these capabilities. Here I'm going to show some of the connectivity in the context of the information catalog. We're going to connect to Azure Data Lake. Azure Data Lake is a Microsoft Azure capability for cloud-based data, and it can store all kinds of data in this environment. SAS supports seamless connectivity to Azure Data Lake. Here we're creating a connector, and we can search for Azure Data Lake content directly. By creating the connector, we can refresh the content that we are able to see in the information catalog. So here I'm searching for ADLS, and I find two data sets that are there. I'll bring up the Azure Data Lake Explorer. You can see those same two data sets. Let me drag and drop a new data set into Explorer. I will hit refresh. Now that data set is in the cloud. You can see that when I bring up the cloud version of Explorer in Azure. SAS will supply seamless connectivity to this environment. I'll go back to the information catalog, and I'll start a new crawl against that system. I'll run it now, and it will start running. You can run this on demand, or you can run this as something that you would schedule perhaps as a job. Here you can see that job is running in our Jobs and Flows container in Environment Manager. I could potentially schedule that job. Perhaps I want to do my Azure Data Lake refresh every so often. Perhaps at night when users are not connected, and so that the data is available to them when they come in the morning. I could schedule that to run periodically. You can also see there are other types of connectors I could run in here, including Azure Synapse or even Snowflake content. While this job is running, I can go do other work. For example, I can go see what other types of data connectors I have available to me. Here I'm showing you some of the connectors available in SAS Studio. This is just a few of the ones that are available to me. Some interesting ones in here are yellow brick connectivity, other types of high-performance cloud connectors. While this job is running, I can go back and look at what data is already in Azure that I might be interested in. So here I'm going to open one of the data sets that's in Azure that I've already profiled. This is bank data. I can see how this data has changed over time. I can drill in to get details. So I'm now profiling the data that's in Azure. Here I've identified that this data set contains an organization ID. It has data quality problems. A significant number of the rows are mismatched. They are detected as integers, and there are missing values in this data set. So at a glance through the catalog in this connectivity, I'm able to get very detailed information about what the data set contains. Here I've identified organization IDs, even generic IDs that are unique to this particular type of data, and of course, data quality problems. There are some number of data sets that are missing. I've identified other types of semantic type, and even private information I've detected in this data set. Now that the Azure new refresh has completed, if I rerun my query against the data, I can see there's my new data set. And I can profile it, which I've already done through the catalog, and start to detect and understand what is in this data. There are a significant number of identified columns in here for semantic type. I've also found some private data. As you can see, this particular data set has individual names, which would be considered potentially private information. And so in summary, this gives you a good overview of the new capabilities that SAS is providing in SAS data management. Streamlined data governance and metadata, our new unified data flow for data integration support, enhanced data quality, and new capabilities around cloud connectivity and many new data connectors to help you get to your data wherever it lives. Thank you for your time in watching this video.